So what we're doing tonight, looking at the whole idea about sacraments, because there's a whole vocabulary of Catholic imagination that I want to help you understand. I'm going to come at it from a whole lot of different perspectives. So, and then we'll do some group work together at the end.
Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge, written by Mem Fox and illustrated by Julie Vivas. There once was a small boy called Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge, and what's more, he wasn't very old either. His house was next door to an old people's home, and he knew all the people who lived there. He liked Mrs. Jordan, who played the organ. He listened to Mr. Hosking, who told him scary stories. He played with Mr. Tippett, who was crazy about cricket. He ran errands for Miss Mitchell, who walked with a wooden stick. He admired Mr. Drysdale, who had a voice like a giant. But his favorite person of all was Miss Nancy Allison Delacourt Cooper, because she had 4 names, just as he did. He called her Miss Nancy and told her all his secrets. One day, Wilfred Gordon heard his mother and father talking about Miss Nancy. "Poor old thing," said his mother. "Why is she a poor old thing?" asked Wilfred Gordon. "Because she's lost her memory," said his father. "It isn't surprising," said his mother. "After all, she is 96. "What's a memory?" asked Wilfred Gordon. He was always asking questions. "It is something you remember," said his father. But Wilfred Gordon wanted to know more, so he called on Mrs. Jordan, who played the organ. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something warm, my child, something warm." He called on Mr. Hosking, who told him scary stories. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something from long ago, my lad, something from long ago." He called on Mr. Tippett, who was crazy about cricket. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something that makes you cry, my boy, something that makes you cry." He called on Miss Mitchell, who walked with a wooden stick. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something that makes you laugh, my darling, something that makes you laugh." He called on Mr. Drysdale, who had a voice like a giant. "What's a memory?" he said. "Something as precious as gold, young man, something as precious as gold." So Wilfred Gordon went home again to look for memories for Miss Nancy, because she had lost her own. He looked for the shoebox of shells he had found long ago last summer and put them gently in a basket. He found the puppet on strings, which always made everyone laugh, and he put that in the basket too. He remembered with sadness the medal which his grandfather had given him, and he placed it gently next to the shells. Next he found his football, which was precious as gold. And last of all, on his way to Miss Nancy's, he went into the hen house and took a fresh, warm egg from under a hen. Then Wilfred Gordon called on Miss Nancy and gave her each thing, one by one. "What a strange, dear child to bring all these wonderful things," thought Miss Nancy. Then she started to remember. She held the warm egg and told Wilfred Gordon about the tiny speckled blue eggs she had once found in a bird's nest in her aunt's garden. She put a shell to her ear and remembered going to the beach by tram long ago and how hot she had felt in her button-up boots. She touched the medal and talked sadly of the big brother she had loved, who had gone to war and never returned. She smiled at the puppet on strings and remembered the one she had shown her sister and how she had laughed with a mouth full of porridge. She bounced the football to Wilfred Gordon and remembered the day she had met him and all the secrets they had told. And the two of them smiled and smiled because Miss Nancy's memory had been found again by a small boy who wasn't very old either.
Wilfred Gordon's trying to understand what a memory is, and the people give him images, They give him some metaphors. It's like this, it's like that. It's something from long ago, which is like these seashells he found long ago last summer. And so he translated all these things into images. He found the puppet on the string, which always made everyone laugh. And, of course, his football, which was as precious as gold. And then he got a nice warm egg from under a hen, because memories are something warm, my child. So everyone gave him images. And so as we are, often as children, we'll translate images into sort of concrete pictures, okay? So what do we call those things that Wilfred Gordon, is there a word for those kind of things that he was finding? Symbols, yeah. So, and the interesting thing about symbols is that they have many meanings. So Wilfred Gordon had assigned meanings. The football was precious as gold. The shells were from long ago. And the symbols had meaning for him, but they had different meaning for Miss Nancy, and they were the same things. And even we have that same experience. We might have, when you take out the Christmas tree, for example, maybe you have Christmas ornaments that have certain memories for you, but maybe other people in the family associate different stories or different memories with the very same ornament. Or maybe you have a nice candle in your house, maybe somebody gave it to you as a gift, and so that has that memory to it. And then one day the power went out, and so you used it to light the house, and now it has a new story or a new memory associated with it. Okay, so memories can have many different meanings, all of them real. Now let me ask you what this means. This is not a trick question. Stop. And if I even if I just put a red octagon up there without the words on it, you'd still know that it means stop, right? So, and how do we, other than the fact that we have this word on there, stop, how do we know that means stop? We assigned the meaning to this. We could have decided that a yellow triangle means stop. But instead we decided a yellow triangle means caution or yield. And a red octagon means stop. Okay, so the point here is that a sign, and this is a sign, a stop sign, a sign has, and this would be true, an assigned meaning. We assigned a meaning to it, and how many more, what else does this mean? It only means stop. That's it. So signs are limited. They have one meaning, that's it. They don't have multiple meanings. So symbols have many meanings, and they can evoke many stories and many memories. Signs might have some meanings for you, like the stop sign that you ran and got a ticket for. That might be a meaning that you'd associate with that sign. But the sign itself it's not even participating. If you were to take something like water, and you could drink water, you could bathe in water, you could cool off in water, you could wash your clothes or your dishes in water. It has all those different, so it's participating in the experience, where signs are flat. They're not participating at all. So that's my point, symbols and signs. And what we're going to look at now, we're going to look at symbols. And so I thought I would start with something that you know very well. And that is Christmas. And it's not too early. Already the Christmas trees and everything are in the stores. And I've even heard somebody told me today that they saw Christmas lights up already. And when do we take them down? On the Feast of the Epiphany. Here we have the three wise men taking down the Christmas decorations. What I want to do is I want to look at two things. I want to look at the things that we use at Christmas. I'm going to call those symbols. And then I want to look at what are the things that we do. What are the actions? So we have things, symbols, and what do we do at Christmas? And those are the ritual actions. Call them out. What do you think of? What are some of the images of Christmas you think of?
Christmas tree.
Christmas tree. Okay, very good. Bells.
Lights.
Christmas lights. Songs, Christmas carols, and caroling. Wreaths, Christmas wreath. With evergreen boughs.
Star on top of the tree.
Stars on the tree.
Poinsettias.
Poinsettias. Okay. Candy canes. Presents, yes. How could we forget presents? Santa Claus. How about the Grinch? Rudolph. Oh, Elf on the Shelf. So here's things, a list of things. We have trees, which we got, stars, which we had, and lights, which we got. Oh, no one mentioned the manger. What is this, a Catholic group or what? Angels. We got Santa Claus, we got the wreath, we got Rudolph the Grinch. I think we had stockings. Cookies, nobody mentioned Christmas cookies. Christmas cards. Snow, that's kind of a Christmas thing. Gifts, we got that. Now, actions, we have visiting. We go visit grandma, we go to visit, family gets together. Cleaning and decorating, because you're going to have people to your house, you got to get the house ready. Caroling. Eating. I put that on 3 times. Eating. Mass, nobody mentioned that. Sending cards, shopping, wrapping. Okay, so that's not a complete list, but pretty complete. So what do you think? Now, so Christmas is about Jesus being born. So do all of these things have to do with the birth of Jesus? No? What would you say, about half? No? 25%? Really? 10%? Okay, well, as a matter of fact, they all have to do with the birth of Jesus. Every one of them. Because the symbols are telling us the story in different ways. So let's look at them. So we have a Christmas tree, which is the first thing we said. And what kind of a tree is it?
Evergreen.
It's an evergreen tree. Okay, so what does that mean, evergreen?
It stays green all year.
It's green all year, but especially it's green when other things are not green, right? So it's always green. So it's a sign of life in the midst of death. Ring any bells? Isn't the Christ the one who is life, resurrection, and life? So, and Christmas is celebrated in the winter, so that's where these symbols are associated with the winter time. The earth is frozen; it's asleep or dead, and so this is a tree that's still green in the midst of that. What's on the top of your tree? A star or an angel. So, and what's on the bottom? Oh, here, got to click. Stars or angels, yes. And what's on the bottom? Your presents. Do you have maybe a little train going around on a track? Maybe you have little villages, those little village things, Okay, so what is that? So top is what? Stars and angels. So the top is the heavens, and the bottom is the earth. And we have the village or where the people live. And so if you think of the tree is actually, and we have this in the biblical language, there's an image where Jesus said, I see angels descending and ascending like on a ladder. The tree is like a ladder. And so its top's in the heavens, and Jesus is coming from heaven down to the earth. So the tree is sort of imagining that, the one from heaven descending down, coming down to earth. So there's 2 stories, Christmas stories. There's Luke's story, which is the manger and the animals, and then there's Matthew's story, which has the wise men. And we tend to put the 2 together, but they're actually 2 different theologies, so they're very different stories. But we only have those 2. So Mark does not have a baby story, and neither does John. So of the 4 Gospels, only Matthew and Luke give us the infancy narrative, we call that. And Luke, of course, is the one we like to read at Christmas Eve. And Matthew we tend to read on the Feast of the Epiphany because he has the Magi coming. Okay, and so it's Matthew who gives us the star, which went before them, and they followed the star, they followed the light. So why do we put lights on the outside of our houses? Like, why do we do that at Christmas time? Why do you think?
Maybe it represents the star that the 3 wise men followed.
Okay, so it has something to do with that star. You're right. So we're getting that from the wise men story. But we put lights on the outside. So let me maybe play with this a little bit. Who are these wise men? Where did they come from?
They're kings.
They're kings. And were they Jewish? No, they were outsiders. They're not in the house. They're the outsiders. And so the outsiders are coming to Christ. So that's part of why we put lights on the outside of our house, because we want to tell the whole world. So Jesus comes as Savior of the world. We don't do this other times. When we decorate, we decorate inside, but we also decorate outside. We don't really decorate, well, we do a little bit of decoration at Halloween, but not that much. Most people don't. There's hardly anything to do at Easter. You color Easter eggs. Some people hang them in trees, which looks a little silly, but so that hasn't really taken off. But a lot of people do this because Christ comes to save the whole world. So this is a story that has to be told to the whole world. We can't keep it in. We can't keep it to ourselves. And so we got and put them on our houses. When do we put them on our houses? Like, what kind of weather do we put them up in? Like we could have put them up last weekend when it was 70 degrees, but we'll probably wait until it's freezing rain and windy and climb up there. It's a lot more fun. Yeah. But Christ, of course, is the light of the world. So that's the other reason that we put them on the outside. Okay, so now in Luke's gospel story, here's the picture. Mary gave birth to her firstborn son, wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger. And it says because there was no room for them in the inn. Actually, it probably means the upper room of the house. The guest room was already taken, so they had to use the lower part of the house where the animals are. That's probably more correct reading. But anyway, she put him in a manger. What's a manger? Who knows what a manger is? Any Italians here? Anybody Italian? What's the word for eat in Italian? Manger in French, yeah. And mangia in Italian, yeah. Manger, is the same word. To eat. The manger is a feeding trough. It's a feeding trough for animals. And the baby is put in a feeding trough. Why? How can this baby be food? In the Eucharist, of course. So Luke is telling us right from the beginning that this baby is food for us, and we find him at the Eucharist. In fact, if you read Luke's Gospel, there's like 12 meal stories in the Gospel of Luke. That's the way you can study Luke's Gospel. From eating to eating to eating to eating to eating. It's all about eating. It's 12 stories. And that's how you can read through Luke's Gospel. It all takes place at the dinner table. So think of this. Any Polish people here? Polish? So do you have Vigilia? Have you ever had Vigilia? Do you know what that is? So Vigilia is like a whole menu that's only a food that's only prepared for Christmas Eve. How many Christmas cookies do you make, or does your mom make? Maybe you help. And we only make those cookies at Christmas time. We have books and books of recipes that we only make once a year for Christmas. Imagine that. We don't have foods. We don't have like Easter foods really, other than Easter eggs. But Christmas, we have all these special foods because the baby is food. So we get that. We get that part of the feast, and that's why we have parties, and there's always food. There's lots of food, eating. That's why I put that on there 3 times. But the wreath comes from the northern climates when the winter would come, and the ground would freeze, and so you wouldn't be working in the fields. And so what the farmers would do is they would take the wheels off their wagons, because they weren't going to use the wagons in the wintertime, and they would hang the wheels in the Great Hall. And then they would put candles on them. That's how we got our Advent wreaths. It comes from the wagon wheels. But think of this. So what was happening there was that when the wintertime came, when the earth was at rest, people also rested. They weren't active. They took time to be quiet and to long winter's night, to sleep. And one of the ways they did that was they took all 4 wheels off the wagons. Could you imagine? Maybe not all 4, but what if you took off the left front tire from your family car for Advent? Wouldn't that be interesting? We wouldn't be able to run off to the mall. We'd have to contemplate. That's where that came from. And that's not a real big draw these days. Okay, how about, now let me give you this word here. You know this word? Myth? What does the word myth mean? Okay, not true is what we've been taught. But here's the thing. Myths, M-Y-T-H, maybe I should use the word mythos, it might be better to say it this way, but the myths that we have are the deepest truths about us. But in our time, since the age of rationalism, since the 18th century, and everything is all about the mind, and then everything is verifiable and scientific. Maybe since the scientific age, so 150 years or so. So everything is very rational. And if we cannot, so we say, is that true? What we mean is, did it really happen? Because we want to have names, dates, facts, just like Sergeant Friday. We want all the information. But the truth is, the deeper truths can only be told in story. So we have many myths in the Bible. For example, the story of Adam and Eve is a myth, and it's very true. Now, what we would say is, did Adam and Eve really exist? That's not the point. The point is not that they really exist, but is that story true for us? And I don't have time to talk about that, but it really is an amazing insight. The ancients had a very deep sense about human nature. I mean, the ancients told us that they recognize this cycle of sevens. We have 7 days in the week, and maybe you've heard about the 7-year itch. Like in marriages, they go the cycles of 7 every 7 years. Couples have kind of downtime, 7 and 14, and now it turns out that in our bodies, our cells are replicated every 7 years. We get a completely new set of cells in a 7-year cycle. So the ancients knew that. They didn't know why. They didn't know what caused it, but they were good observers of human nature, and so they have great truths to reveal. And these truths are so powerful that they're told through story, because we can't come at them directly. So they're remembered through the stories that bring them to us. So Santa Claus is a myth, but Santa Claus still lives and still exists. We can't get rid of him. Now, we pretend that he is a secular figure in order to protect our religious liberties. Thomas More said that. But actually, he is the Santos, the Holy One. Now, so think about Santa Claus. So how does Santa Claus get into your house? Comes down the chimney, and he comes in through the fireplace. So the fireplace or hearth is sort of in the same way as the stars on the top of the tree and the village at the bottom. So we have this descending from the heavens, coming down into our houses, coming down to earth from the heavens. And then we have the same way that the tree connects heaven and earth, which is what Jesus does. He's the connecting link. So Santa Claus, too, brings the heavens into our houses, so we have a connection between heaven and earth come together. We listened for him on the roof, right? When you were kids, maybe your parents said, "Oh, listen," and we would listen for sounds. And then what do you put for Santa Claus? Cookies and milk, and if he eats them, then we know that he was there. Here's a little thing from K Chesterton. He was a British Catholic writer, and he said this: "What has happened to me has been the very reverse of what appears to be the experience of most of my friends. Instead of dwindling to a point, Santa Claus has grown larger and larger in my life until he fills almost the whole of it. It happened in this way. As a child, I was faced with a phenomenon requiring explanation. I hung up at the end of my bed an empty stocking, which in the morning became a full stocking. I had done nothing to produce the things that filled it. I had not worked for them, or made them, or helped to make them. I had not even been good, far from it. And the explanation was that a certain being, whom people called Santa Claus, was benevolently disposed toward me. What we believed, that a certain benevolent agency did give us these toys for nothing. And as I say, I believe it still. I've merely extended the idea. Then I only wondered who put the toys in the stocking. Now I wonder who put the stocking by the bed, and the bed in the room, and the room in the house, and the house on the planet, and the planet in the great void. Once I only thanked Santa Claus for a few dolls and crackers." Crackers is a little British noisemakers. Now I thank him for stars and street faces and wine and the great sea. Once I thought it delightful and astonishing to find a present so big that it only went halfway into the stocking. Now I'm delighted and astonished every morning to find a present so big that it takes 2 stockings to hold it and then leaves a great deal outside. It is the large and preposterous present of myself, as to the origin of which I can offer no suggestion, except that Santa Claus gave it to me in a fit of peculiarly fantastic goodwill. And Santa Claus isn't this the Heavenly Father gifting the world with his Son? I mean, so this Santa Claus embodies the true Christmas story. Okay, how about Rudolph? What's the Rudolph story? He had the red nose, and so wasn't it a dark and stormy night, and it was too foggy, and they couldn't see, and so Rudolph is the light in the darkness, remember? The Christ who is the light of the world. So Rudolph is a Christ figure. He is the one who leads the way, leads us out of the darkness. In the Christmas Day Gospel, the light comes into the world, the darkness cannot overcome it. That's from John's Gospel, John's prologue. John the Baptist comes in John's Gospel to testify to the light, and in John's Gospel, Jesus says, I am the light of the world. So all of that, and Rudolph is the Christ figure. How about the Grinch? Is the Grinch a Christmas story? So, what was the Grinch's problem? His heart was too small. He tried to steal Christmas. Is there a biblical story of the Grinch? You may not know this story. Do you know the story?
Is it of that king that sent the 3 wise men to Jesus, and that he told them to tell the king where Jesus was?
Yeah, King Herod, yeah, exactly. So the wise men come to King Herod. He said, go tell me where the child is, so I too can go and worship him. And then what did he do?
The 3 wise men didn't.
Well, they went back by another road. But the king then slaughtered all the baby boys aged 2 and under, so as to prevent this little baby from taking his throne. He was so threatened. So we have the slaughter of the innocents. And so King Herod tried to steal Christmas. And so the Grinch is the story of King Herod. So we and we don't read that story on Sunday very often. It only happens in certain years. So I think we haven't had very often. You probably don't know, but it's an important story. But that's a hint what happened to Jesus later in his life. The same King Herod, also concurred in putting him to death. So early at the beginning, we already have a hint that this baby has come to die for us. So that's part of the Christmas story. That's like in the 3rd and 4th verses of the Christmas carols we never get to. Now we know the 1st and 2nd verses by heart, then we don't know the last, because we start getting into the tougher stuff, but the great thing about the Grinch is that the whole village, they had big hearts, and so they converted him. So and there's great stories of conversion that happen at Christmas time and no other. So what are some other stories you know about big conversions? Ebenezer Scrooge, Christmas Story. What else? Charlie Brown's Christmas Story. About the tree, the broken down Christmas tree was kind of the true meaning of Christmas. There's a wonderful story. Do you ever read the story by O. Henry called "The Gift of the Magi"? It says Jim and Della. Jim has this watch. It's his grandfather's pocket watch, but he doesn't have the chain to go with it to put on his vest. And Della has this beautiful long hair, but she doesn't have any. She wants these tortoiseshell combs to put in her hair. And so Jim pawns the watch to buy the tortoiseshells for Della for Christmas. And she cuts her hair and sells it to buy the fob chain for Jim's watch. So they both give each other presents that are totally useless. And then at the end, they say, let's put on some pork chops. And so they eat, which is what you do at Christmas.
There's like a Mickey Mouse version of that.
Is there a Mickey Mouse version? Yeah. So there's all these secondary stories, and we tell them, there's probably cartoons. Here's something, this is essential to Christmas. I mean, you probably make Christmas cookies, right? I mean, your mom does, but you probably do too. So let me just think now, just basic, bare bones, what is in a cookie? What ingredients? What's dough? Flour and water, basically, and some sugar. So what else does that remind you of? What else is flour and water? Bread, exactly. So what you have here is sweet bread. So if you go to somebody's house at Christmas time, don't they put out a plate of cookies? Like a plate, and then your mom says, take one. So what are we doing there? What's going on there? When we put out a plate of cookies and pass it around, what is that action that we're doing? We're sharing Eucharist. It's a Eucharistic action. Just like you come here and the body of Christ, we receive the bread. So now this is a sweet bread, but we do the very same thing. I mean, and women do this cookie exchange. It's all about this. Cookies are about sharing bread together. That's what they're about. And we have these special cookies in order to make that. What we do is we take the rituals from church, we take them home to the domestic church, the church of the house. Christmas cards. So somebody, Christmas cards are, now they're not so religious, but some people try to send out religious cards, but we're we're telling the story, telling the good news. Somebody's got to tell. Christianity is not something that somebody could just sit down and figure, if they were really smart, could figure it out. Somebody told us. The angel came and announced it, and then somebody told somebody else. It's handed on. Somebody told you. Your parents told you. Your grandparents told you. It's a story that's handed on from generation to generation. There has to be somebody proclaiming the story, or there's nobody to hear it. So let me ask you this. What if I wanted to start an evangelization committee? Like the Mormons do. Did you ever have the Mormons come to your house? These young men in the black suits and the black tie and the white shirt. They come 2 by 2. They come to your house and try to convert you to Mormonism. Did you ever have that? No, you're not home for that. What if I wanted to get people to go door to door in pairs preaching the gospel? How many people would volunteer from my committee? Here's a half. This boy's thinking maybe. So not too many people would volunteer for that. How many of you have ever gone Christmas caroling? What were you doing? Preaching the gospel. See, so ritually, we'll do things in a ritual action that we wouldn't be caught dead doing otherwise. So rituals help us engage in other kind of activities. And so that's exactly what we're doing, going door to door, preaching the gospel. So why do you suppose we like snow at Christmas time? And everybody dreams of a white Christmas, huh? We have songs about that. Why is snow so important? Because what? Oh, Santa needs it for the sleigh. Yeah. Well, that's all. It's connected. But but have you ever gone out in a snowstorm and it's so quiet and everything looks clean? I think snow helps us imagine a world transformed. For a moment, it's like the world has changed, and there's a calmness, a quietness, the silent night, holy night. So snow helps us imagine that even more powerfully. We mentioned Christmas gifts. The Magi, of course, brought gifts, so that's part of it. Jesus, of course, is the gift of God. The gifts are both the things that we have, but there's also there's a whole bunch of things that are part of Christmas giving. Right? We got to go shopping. We got to make our list. We got to take them back. So there's pre-Christmas, post-Christmas. So there's, and then the wrapping, the hiding, because we weren't expecting that Jesus is a surprise, so we try to hide the gift. It's an unexpected free gift of God. So we have many rituals at Christmas time. So imagine, imagine this going. Do you ever go and cut down your own tree? What was that story? What was that thing with Chevy Chase? What was that movie with that tree that had the squirrels and? They cut down the tree and it blew out the windows.
Like Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, Christmas Vacation. Yeah. So so imagine, there you go. So you're going to go out and get a Christmas tree, and the dad's in charge, and it's freezing rain, and the tree keeps falling off the car, and so you finally get home, and everybody wants to put the tree up, but all you want is a double scotch because it's like I've had it, So don't let me. I'm not doing this. And so, but what happens is people start putting up the tree. They put the lights on. They put the ornaments on. And then here you are, nursing your drink. And then they grab you and put an ornament in your hand, and they pull you up, and you put an ornament on the tree. What happens? Suddenly, you're in the Christmas spirit. Something changed. That this action moves you out of a particular time and place into a different time and place. So that's what ritual action does. It moves us out of ordinary time, kind of whatever grumpy moment we were in, and it puts us in a different time and space, in a different spirit. So ritual does that. We sing together. We sing Happy Birthday. It's a way of everybody being part of the same spirit. Giving blessings to this person. Okay, so we have rituals of visiting at Christmas time. Mary went to visit Elizabeth, her cousin Elizabeth. The Magi, of course, were visiting. The angels came. The shepherds came. So we have many, in the Christmas story, we have many stories of that, of visiting. And Christmas is a time of visiting family. Now, since family is coming, we got to decorate the house. People only decorate at Christmas time, right? I mean, big time. You do little stuff for, Thanksgiving and stuff, but Halloween, but big time for Christmas. You move furniture around. It's a big thing. So we basically, Christmas happens in the home. People think that I'm very busy at Christmas time. Oh, Father, you must be very busy. And I lie. I say, yeah, oh, I'm so busy. I really have nothing to do at Christmas because you do Christmas at home. Now, Easter, I'm busy. Easter is a church festival. Palm Sunday, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, Easter Sunday. I do Easter, but you do Christmas. Moms really are in charge. They're the high priests of Christmas. It's all done in the home. And your wife's birthday is Christmas, so it's triple in their house. So I think that, all this decorating and cleaning and planning for Christmas is all part of helping us come together as family. If you're helping your mom clean the house, so maybe you and your mom have a conversation, and maybe you and your brother you have a job to do. And then after you get done fighting with each other, you actually, kind of enjoy working together. So it helps. It's the being together that helps form us as family. And I think that Thanksgiving is sort of a pre-Christmas ritual in our culture now. Because who do you have Thanksgiving with? The same people you have Christmas with. So it's like a test run. Says, well, let's try Thanksgiving, see who's not talking to whom. Well, then we have a month to get over it, to try to be ready for Christmas. So all this planning is all part of the preparation, so that we're in communion for Christmas. Of course, I mentioned eating, which is the huge thing. We eat every time. All of December, that's all we do is we eat. Starting with Thanksgiving, we eat. Okay, then of course, church. People come to church at Christmas, but we come to Christmas. Everybody comes in our parish. They all come Christmas Eve. Nobody comes Christmas Day. Well, a few people, but Easter Sunday, everybody comes on Easter Sunday. So Easter's a getting up feast. It's a sunrise. It's a early morning feast. And Christmas comes in the middle of the night. We come. So this is the time of the winter solstice. It's the darkest time of the year, and we come at the darkest time of the year, at the darkest time of the night, to celebrate the light coming into the world.
Think about this. Ponder this for a moment. When something of great import, something of great weight happens in this country, when a tragedy occurs, what happens? We can't find words. We can't summon words to express what is going on inside of us. So we do something. We engage in ritual activity. One of the first things that people do is walk to the site, go to the site where this tragedy has occurred. What is that? It's called pilgrimage. At the site, we can't find words, and so we bring things, we bring materials that speak to deep realities, that point to something beyond which we see, beyond the tangible. What do we call that but symbolic activity? We use symbols to express what we cannot say. What do? Everyone takes out a candle. We stand in the darkness and we curse the darkness with light. We sing because we can't find the words to say what is going on inside of us. Singing expresses the inexpressible. This is ritual activity. Thomas Driver, an insightful theologian, says, paraphrasing Shakespeare, we are such stuff that ritual is made of. We do ritual. Human beings cannot escape it.